Hey guys, so I want to touch on something that was in the news today because it's an important issue, and I want to talk about it before it falls out of the public consciousness. So recently, yesterday, the Milwaukee Bucks, an NBA basketball team, decided that they would boycott a playoff game, which is historical. I don't believe that's ever been done. They didn't show up for the game. They didn't play. And the NBA canceled the remainder of the games for that day. They postponed them, as well as the games for the next day, which is actually today. Those were canceled as well. So, this catalyzed a sequence of events that led to multiple teams from multiple sports leagues protesting by boycotting their games. We had top tennis athletes do it. We had MLB teams do it, NHL teams do it, several different leagues. We had a sequence of events that furthered the conversation on social injustice, as well as kind of thrusting this into the spotlight, forcing people to talk about it, right? We even had a NBA analyst walk off the set on live TV to show solidarity with the cause. So I've heard a lot of differing opinions about this. Of course, people take their sides, take their tribes. But and now there's also talk of, will the NBA suspend play for the remainder of the season? Will they cancel the playoffs? And some people are saying, well, good, they should. It's just a sport, it's not important. And some people are saying they shouldn't. So I wanted to give my opinion on what's happened and what I think hopefully will happen going forward. Let me apologize for the cicadas in the background, because they're on their, their 17-year cycle, where they're out in numbers this year. It's crazy. For those of you that don't know, that don't live in an area where cicadas do this, they have a cycle. There's 14-year cicadas and there's 17-year cicadas, and somehow their internal cycles tell them that once every 14 or 17 years they'll burrow up from underneath the ground, and I guess they do this to mate. They make this sound that you can hear to attract each other, and you'll find cicadas, you'll find molted cicada shells, you'll find dying cicadas all over, and that's happening right now, so I apologize. I think what the cicadas are doing is also kind of symbolic to some of the things that are happening right now on the platform of racial injustice. I think what they do, to anyone who doesn't track their cycles, seems like chaos, right? But it's organized chaos. It's chaos with a purpose. And I think that's what's in some ways necessary for the racial injustice movement right now too. I think, and by the way, let me just say that was right off the top of my head. This wasn't like a planned transition. But I think what the NBA did was an important thing. And for those saying that, it was a gimmick or it wasn't important, I think it's important to note that with all transformative movements, it's essential to keep the conversation in the public spotlight, to keep the issue at hand in the public consciousness. And we've seen, especially with how quickly the news moves nowadays, there was just a hurricane, there's an election coming up, there's issue after issue after issue. I think it's really important not to let racial injustice slip away again. How many decades have we been living without fixing this issue, without fixing this problem? And for those of you that want to understand what the problem is more closely, you can look at some of my past videos. I did one months ago, and then I did one a few days ago about Is It All in My Head? And it's about the racial injustice and there's something called the hit rate that shows skeptics what is happening beyond any reasonable doubt. So it's happening. We can't let it drift away. The first step to that is keeping it in the public consciousness, and to do that, you disrupt. That's why people protest, and that's why the NBA did what they did. It's a great thing. Now the question is, do they suspend the rest of the season? Is that helpful or is that hurtful? Is it helpful or is it hurtful? Should they continue to play? And I believe they should continue to play, and here's why. The disruption was essential, but when you talk about especially the NBA, this is a sports league that gives a platform to its players. Compare this sports league to the dozens of other leagues, and you'll see a major difference. The NBA has, plastered Black Lives Matter on the courts. The NBA has allowed players to wear slogans promoting their cause on their uniforms. The NBA, when they saw that one team boycotted, they went ahead and canceled the games for the rest of the day. The NBA is still a sports league that seeks financial gain, but they are a sports league that has also given power to their players in terms of contracts in a number of ways that other sports leagues haven't. Many of the millionaires that are behind the scenes in the NBA are allies to the black racial injustice movement. Not all of them, but many of them are. The commissioner seems to be. So I don't think that canceling the rest of the season to spite the people in charge of the NBA and to hurt people's pockets is a smart idea. It is important to affect people in their pockets, and we've done that. And I talk about we as in the people behind the movement, like we the people, right? We've done that in a way. There's now a threat that we aren't afraid to stop this game if it means making a difference, making a bigger difference with a larger cause, for a larger cause. There's that threat, and it's there, and that's important. But I think what's also important is to not misdirect our anger or our rage or our protests. Let's work with the allies that want to work with us. I think the NBA has a rare opportunity. They have the spotlight. Now, when these players go back to their hometowns, they don't have that spotlight anymore. The whole reason that this boycott became a national topic is because people are watching the NBA, and I don't want them to lose that by canceling the rest of the season. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to take millions of dollars out of the pockets of black millionaires that oftentimes bring that back to their communities. I don't think it's a good idea to take money out of the pockets of allies in the NBA. I don't think any of that is the smartest way to approach this. I think they should finish the season. I think they should, the playoffs, I think they should think about doing more in what they call the bubble, in the playoff environment that's been created for them. If they want to disrupt, they can disrupt. I don't think canceling the entire season is a smart decision, but we can now demand concessions, real concessions. Let's make sure that there are enough black vendors at the stadiums, black businesses at the stadiums. Let's make sure that enough of the staff for the different NBA teams, let's make sure enough of them, we have enough African American and enough minority staff. Let's watch the NBA put their money where their mouth is and possibly agree to donate a certain amount of money each season to the racial injustice platform. Let's push in that direction. Let's not take money away from the organization and away from the people that are actually supporting this cause. So that's my take on where we should go from here. Of course, it's out of my hands. But I kind of want to push back against people that say that this, if it's really important, we should just cancel the season. That doesn't make sense. You guys, the people, the opposition out there, the people that are that are race deniers, racial injustice deniers, the racists, most of them will rejoice if the season's canceled, is the honest answer. Most of them don't watch the NBA. They don't watch black athletes in the NBA. They have their other sports. Most of them will say that, the failing NBA, no one was watching it anyway, and that's what our president, I'm sure, would say. So if we really want to make a difference, we need to continue the season. We need to use the spotlight that the playoffs, that the NBA playoffs gives us, and we need to continue to raise our voices. I am proud of the NBA players for being unafraid to take a stance. I'm proud of the NBA for amplifying the players' platform, and of course, you guys know where I stand on it. So I want to thank everybody out there who's also an ally and who has amplified the voices of their friends in a quest for equality for all. Appreciate you guys. Hey guys, so it's getting late, but before I leave, I just wanted to touch on one other thing that's, I guess, important for our community. There has been a disagreement in the community about how to handle sports in general. A lot of people rightly point out that sports are a pastime, and by their very nature created as a distraction. So, you know, those people would say it's contradictory to even talk about how athletes playing a sport can affect change. By their very nature, they're doing something that distracts from real issues, right? There was a player named Kyrie Irving who was, okay, there's a whole story behind Kyrie. I don't love the guy, but this is an NBA player, a superstar, and he was trying to persuade NBA players not to return to finish the season in the first place. This was months ago. And his reasoning was that there's more important issues, like there's racial injustice going on, there's coronavirus, we shouldn't continue the season. And so there's a whole camp that sides with him and says, like, from the beginning he was right. The season shouldn't have continued. And so I want to be very clear with my answer to those people. Look, people will always distract themselves with pastimes, right? If you cancel the NBA, it's not like people are going to stop being entertained. They'll find their television programs, they'll find their other sports. The thing we should be talking about here is where people's attention is going, because that's what's important. If we find where their attention is going, we can find the people who are able to talk to them because they're listening. And right now, the NBA has people's ears. Everything I said before is true about the NBA being, you know, a rare group of black millionaires that actually can bring money back to their community. We have rare allies in the NBA. But it's also true that that if we take the power away from these people, if we cancel the season, that power is only going to go to other people who care less about racial equality and criminal justice reform and the issues of black Americans. If we give up the mic, someone else is going to pick the mic up. That's what I'm trying to say. So I respect the opinion of people who say, like, this is a sport, we should stop the sport, but respectively, in this case, that doesn't make sense. I came up with an analogy, and it's not 100% accurate, but I think it makes the point. If you were a slave and you had handlers who started sympathizing with you, who started to say, you know, I don't agree with the way that you guys are being treated. This isn't right. I don't like what the plantation master is doing. As a slave, would you decide then to cut off your hand to spite the master so that you couldn't work in the fields? Understanding that by cutting off your hands, you are now irrelevant, and so is your handler, because he is going to be fired, right? So now all the allies are gone. You will be replaced. And that's my point here. The situation isn't ideal, but that's the very nature of racial injustice and the unequal opportunity that exists in this country. But we need to use whatever opportunity we do have to affect real change. And that should be the mission right here. It's the slaves, now that they have the voice of a few of the handlers, it's maybe they can push that message. Maybe they can affect change on the plantation. Maybe they can affect change in the people that are back in the towns that never agreed with the institution of slavery to begin with. Let's use the mic while we have it. Let's not misdirect our rage. I think we have an opportunity now. We have allies that we never had before. We have a nation that's listening. It's not going to be easy, but this is just the start. Let's push for real change. Let's make real demands that can be met. We can use power, we can boycott, we can hold out, but let's not just cancel the whole thing and give up any leverage that we have. All right, guys. Hope that makes sense. Like and subscribe so that one day one person will see this video. Appreciate you. Peace.